Hi, welcome to Salt City Knits podcast. I am Emily, and this is a podcast all about my knitting and making life, mostly knitting, especially today. I am found on Instagram at Salt City Knits and also on Ravelry as Salt City Knits. And you can also find my patterns on yarnbrary.com. So welcome and thank you for joining me. Thank you for anybody who's coming back or any new viewers. It's wonderful to have you here. And I'm really excited to be talking today about a finished object and some works in progress, some pattern news, and yeah, I think that's it. I'm not going to have a book recommendation today. I am reading a book that I'm really enjoying, but I want to finish it before I recommend it. Just so I can make sure it's one that I want to recommend. It is another snowy day today. Yes, it is April 3rd, but it's snowing. And we're supposed to get a lot of snow today and even more tomorrow. Yeah, we're just all so done. But I was looking at the forecast and it is supposed to, after tomorrow, it's supposed to be sunny and this snow will melt really quickly. But it's supposed to be sunny. And by the weekend, it's supposed to be, I think, in the 60s Fahrenheit. So that is very exciting. I did not record last week. I was having a really rough week with my chronic illness. And so I just had to take a week off, but I'm happy to be back today and recording a day early. I normally record on Tuesdays, but my daughter's birthday is tomorrow and she is going to be 15. If the weather permits, we are actually going to get her driver's learner's permit tomorrow, which is something in the US that we can do at 15, at least here in Utah. I know there are some states that are heavily farming that can do it younger. But here in Utah, it's 15 years old. So she's been studying for her written test and so on. And so that could be happening tomorrow. The last one, we can do this. I have an agreement with my husband that he has to get them road ready. And then I will do all their driving. In Utah, you have to have 40 hours of on the road driving experience before you can get your license, driving with a parent. And so I will get their hours in, but he has to get them road ready. That was the best decision I ever made, was to tell him he had to do that. I did it with the two oldest. He gets to do it with the two youngest. Anyway, today my finished object is this beautiful thing, my Fragmentation shawl. And I have talked about this a lot. So if you're really interested in lots of information about the pattern, you can look at my other episodes. I think I have mentioned it now in every episode, I'm pretty sure. And I finished it on Saturday. And it's so lovely. I absolutely am thrilled with it. It's massive. It's humongous. It's so squishy and fluffy and dreamy. I'm absolutely thrilled. I have not blocked this. I don't think I am going to block it because it doesn't look like it needs it, first of all. I'm not really concerned. I'm not interested in trying to make it grow. The shaping is already beautiful. So it's all garter stitch. And that makes a big difference, you know. Also, this Surrey alpaca is so floofy and it really kind of maintains its shape. It doesn't squish back in on itself because of all the fluff. You kind of knit it and it stays there. So I don't know. I mean, it could block more than this. I have knit another shawl with this same base. I knit a beautiful shawl for my mother. In fact, I think I posted, did I post a picture? I don't think I did last episode when I was talking about my mom's birthday, but I knit a beautiful shawl all out of, it was 100% out of this fingering weight Surrey alpaca. And now that had a lace weight pattern. And so when I blocked it, it did make quite a bit of a difference, but garter stitch. So just a little bit about it. When I first started, all my scraps came up to here in this bag. So this is how much I have used up. And look at this, you guys. This is how much of the Surrey alpaca I had left. It's 2 grams, 2 grams of yarn. I didn't know I was playing yarn chicken. The cake of yarn was in my basket, and it was just, you know, going along and just knitting, and I finished and I bound off and I ended it and I broke my yarn, and then I saw how little I had left, and I'm kind of glad I mean, I wouldn't have been worried about it. I have more of this in stock, but in stock. It used to be stock, now it's stash, I guess. Anyway, and so that is what I had left. So if you're following the same kind of pattern that I did, where you're knitting every other with a main color, and if your gauge is the same as mine, this could be a pretty close thing on 2 skeins of yarn. So I used just under 200 grams. In fact, I would guess it was 200 grams. I did not weigh my skeins before I started, but you know, they're 100-gram skeins, but most 100-gram skeins have a little bit of extra in them. That's been my experience, is they might be 101, 103, you know, somewhere in there. So I would say it was pretty close to 200 grams of my Surrey, and then the whole shawl weighs in at 375 grams. So that means I used right around 175 grams of scraps for the rest of it. And I'm just thrilled with it. It is so delightfully cozy. And I really think that most of the time, I'm just going to end up wearing it like this, just over my shoulders, as kind of a fashionable blanket. It's just delightful, and it's so big. And it doesn't, because again of the Surrey alpaca and all that extra fluff, it doesn't really compress down. I mean, it can if you force it, but I don't think I would enjoy the bulk of it wrapped, that I would end up against my chin. That's not something I really love. I like something that drapes, but this is just perfect. And you've just got that lovely halo and the softness of the colors. I'm just thrilled with it. I enjoyed this so much. I think there were only a couple of times when I was in the last couple of wedges in these longer stripes that I kind of was like, oh, I think I'm ready to be done with this project. I wove in all my ends. I would knit a wedge, and then I would weave in all the ends, so that when I knit the next wedge, as I was attaching it back into the previous one, all the ends were already dealt with. And when I got to the 7th wedge, I wove in my ends every, I don't know, 3-ish, 4-ish stripes. Again, so that I wouldn't get to the very end and then have a million to weave in. And that really made it so much more enjoyable for me. The only thing I would say, because Stephen West makes such amazing video tutorials of almost everything that he does. And he has one on this. The only thing I wished he had was a video. The video did not show anything about your last I-cord edge and changing colors at the beginning of your I-cord edge. So, you know, I didn't know, like, I thought maybe he has a special way of doing that, but I don't think he does. I really think he just, and this is what I did, and it turned out great. Just when it came time to add the new color, I just added the new color, and it didn't, I mean, here's the edge on the wrong side, and it looks great. I just, you know, wove in my ends, and the I-cord looks wonderful. Front and, oh, here, let's try that again. Front and back, I think it looks really good. So, but I did go look at that video to see if he had mentioned anything, and he didn't. But in the end, that was 100% fine. I've been really enjoying seeing other people's fragmentation shawls. Lots of people are making this. And I would say 2 of my very favorites right now, obviously Deborah of Candy Shop Yarns. She's my sister, and she has impeccable taste. And she is doing the 7 color version as as written, where you're alternating those 7 colors and kind of stair-stepping them in a little bit of a spiral. And her colors are just so vibrant and summery and just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And then I love Jules of So Sweet Violet. She is also doing the Surrey alpaca stripes in the same way that I am, but hers is a rainbow, which is super fun. I think that she started at pink for the smallest, and then down to her violet as her biggest stripes. I'm pretty sure that's how she did it. And then she is doing a different version of that color for every wedge. So for example, that smallest stripe would all be pinks, but they're kind of ranging from darker to lighter, or lighter to darker. I don't remember which one. And so it's just beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. So I'll put a link to both of those podcasts below so you can see their projects. And yeah, just so much fun. So I love it. And I just loved making it. And I'm also really happy that I'm done and moving on to other things and I get to enjoy it. I hope I will get some wear out of it before it gets too springy. Not that I'm waiting for more cold weather, but I'll definitely be wearing it. I'm just going to keep it out about the house as decor, you know. It's so pretty. Why wouldn't you want it out and about the house as decor? I love it. Oh, I love it. All right, so works in progress. I do have some new works in progress, but first, I think I've already shown this one. Yeah, I have. And this one is in this really cute bag from Stitching Plaza. Yeah, Stitching Plaza. Love the Pride and Prejudice theme. This kit, this bag and the yarn in it were a birthday present from my dear friend Renee, and so fun to knit with those. Gift yarn is some of the best yarn, isn't it? So in this awesome Pride and Prejudice bag, we have awesome Pride and Prejudice yarn. This yarn, it's a self-striping yarn, and it is from Area 51 Fibers, and the colorway is Oh Mr. Darcy. I think I might have the tag in here, or the ball band. Yes, so Area 51 Fibers. And the colorway is Oh Mr. Darcy. It's in their sturdy alien base, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon, 425 yards to 100 grams. And I have finished the first sock. That is not the first sock. I finished the first sock. And I haven't blocked it, of course, or anything. And I didn't even bring a blocker up. I used my cuff pattern from my candy floss socks. And, but then I'm just knitting a stockinette sock. This blue mini that I used for the cuff and the toe came with the sock set. And then this one was one that I just had in my stash. I was a little concerned about having enough for heels and toes and cuffs for both socks. So of the blue, so I just added that one in. It's not a perfect match, but I think it goes nicely. And self-striping yarn is just so fun and rewarding to knit on. I mean, you can't go wrong because you just want to knit one more stripe, right? And yeah, I'm finding that I'm enjoying it more and more. For a long time, I always wanted to knit patterned socks. And don't get me wrong, I love patterned socks. But I'm also just enjoying the stockinette ones as well. So this one is done. And then I am now on the foot of the second sock. So I have finished my heel and I'm working on the foot. And yeah, I'm excited to have these. I went through my sock drawer the other day. It's been a couple weeks ago. But as my daughter says, any day previous to today qualifies as the other day. So I went through it and I realized I have a lot of socks. I mean, I knew I had a lot of socks, but I have a lot of socks, but there are a lot of them that are, I have worn and worn and worn. I only wear hand knit socks, and we have long winters here, and they get worn out. I actually, for the first time this year, because I do darn socks and mend them, but for the first time this year, I threw away, I think, 4 pair of socks, or five pair of socks, just because they had been mended to the point the soles were getting super thin and they were just done. They had served their purpose, and I had really loved them, and I'd used them up. And but I'd probably had them for 8 years, somewhere in there. So anyway, I kind of have this idea in my head that's not really true, that once you knit something, you get to keep it forever and you'll never wear it out because you can repair it, which is absolutely true. But things do get worn out. And it's amazing, though, to wear a pair of socks for 8 years and still have it in your drawer. And I have a lot. But one of the things I did notice is that the socks that I reach for a lot, they are a slightly different size. I had changed the way I knit my socks, and the way I knit my socks now, I make them a little bit longer in the foot, but with a smaller circumference than when I started. And they just fit so much better. So the socks that I knit even, 5 to 7 years ago, they are still in good shape, but I don't really like to wear them as much. So it's okay to say I get to knit myself more, and this one's going to be one of them. So those are coming along very nicely, enjoying them very much. Enjoying my birthday present. My birthday was in October, and here I am enjoying my birthday now. It's so great. So that is one of my works in progress. Okay, let's show this one. This is also one that I've shown before, and this is my shawl, my sweater, my cardigan that I am working on. Try and get it out without everything falling out of the bag. Okay, I have just a few rows ago divided the sleeves and the body. Okay, here, we'll lay it up here. So hard to show these things, but this is a cardigan that I am designing. I say designing, I am formulating it for myself. And it's one I'm knitting with my advent calendar from Dandelion and Dogwood, which I've also talked about in previous episodes. But now I have just divided the sleeves and the body. And so I have started with my yarn management for how I'm going to have yarn for the fading for the different parts. So I wanted to share how I did that. So once I divided the sleeves and the body, I now have stitch counts for how many stitches I have in my body circumference, how many stitches I'm going to have for my sleeve circumference. And so I worked out that formula. And for me, that formula at the beginning here, so we're talking at the top of my sleeve and at the widest point of my body, well, at my bust line, I should say, the underarm, is 40% of the stitches are on the sleeves and 60% are on the body. And a big part that it's 40 and 60 is because there's still a fairly wide button band and because I'm knitting a fairly fitted sleeve. So if either of those things are altered, or, depending on your measurements, that could be a 50-50, it could be a 30-70, but for me, it was 40% and 60%. Each of my mini skeins is 20 grams. So that means 40% is 8 grams and 60% is 12 grams. So that means that I am putting my 12 grams into the body, And then each of my mini skeins should have 8 grams left. And again, this is at the beginning. And so I divided them up into 4-gram balls. And I put them each in a Ziploc bag so that there will be one Ziploc bag for each sleeve. So as that progresses, this is what I plan on doing. I'm also fading it. I'm doing a really quick fade where I end one, with color A, for example, I'm going to knit until I have 10 grams left. That's when and this is in the body, that's when I will add in color B and do a stripe down and back. And then I will do one more stripe down and back with color A and then break that yarn and then take what's left and divide it up. And when I did that, just with this last yarn, that worked out perfectly for that 2 grams to go into that down and back stripe. I'm a large woman. That would not be the same thing for smaller sizes. You would have to figure that out. But that's how it is working for me. Now, one thing that I plan on doing is making this cardigan slightly A-line, which means that every 8 rows, I will be increasing in the side seam on both sides. And so that means over time, the body stitches are going to increase. And of course, your sleeve stitches are going to decrease. So I'm going to work on my 60-40 principle for a few inches of body length. There won't be a dramatic number of increases, decreases in that amount that will really heavily alter that ratio. But once I get down to a few inches under the underarm, I will reevaluate my percentages based on stitch counts again. And that will probably end up becoming, for example, a 65-25, 65-35 ratio. And then later it could become a 70-30, etc. And that is the plan. Now, the thing I like about this is that when I was originally working, I kind of stopped on this fade for a bit because I was so trying to process through how I was going to make this work. And I didn't love the idea of having to do a lot of, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I thought, well, I could kind of knit my sleeves concurrently, so I knew how to get them even and so on. And finally, I just thought, why don't I just even out the yarn in the first place? So that way I can just look at my yarn to know. I don't have to be constantly looking at the scale every time I knit a row, for example. I will be looking at my scale when I knit a row for the body. But I can also kind of count the number of rows I'm doing to get an idea and then only have to look at the scale a little bit. I have just put my scale, which now I can't reach. Where are you? Apparently I've taken it back out of here. I had it. Apparently I don't have it right here in my basket. It's probably sitting down next to my other chair where I was knitting. But I just had been keeping my scale in my project basket. I have a basket where I put all my project bags that kind of usually sits next to my chair. And I've just been keeping my yarn scale in there so I can pull it out and use it whenever I need to. And that seems to be working quite well. I kind of wish retroactively that I hadn't decided to both design and fade with mini skeins in the same project. That's a lot of math all the time. However, I love this yarn so much. I mean, yes, this is already really beautiful, but when you get down even farther, it just keeps getting more and more beautiful. I mean, we start to get into all the peachy, all these gorgeous colors here. And then it gets even more intense when you get down even farther into these colors. I mean, it's just going to be so stunning. So stunning. This is the color I'm working with right now. And it's called Ferdinand Pitchard, I believe, which again is another David Austin rose, if I'm correct. That is from this Christmas Roses Advent from Dandelion and Dogwood. And yet again, I wish you could see the sparkle. It's so sparkly, but the sparkle just doesn't want to show up on the camera, but it's there and it's beautiful. And I love it. So very fun. So that is that project. It's taking a lot of mental space. It's only stockinette stitch, but there's a lot of math involved in this project. So it's definitely taking more mental capacity than I want to deal with every single day. So it's probably going to be a little bit of a longer project, but I'm okay with that. I'm enjoying it. I love the yarn. All right, I have 2 new cast-ons that I'm so happy to show. So the first one is in this gorgeous bag from Tiffany of Southern Sparrow Handmade. She does a lot of beautiful embroidery. This one I've had for years and I absolutely love it. It's just this beautiful kind of canvas with this amazing kind of Swedish inspired, but with unicorns. I love it. Embroidery. And I am knitting a very cute little baby sweater here, baby cardigan. This is for some dear friends of ours who are expecting. In fact, she was due on Saturday, so any minute. I am using Yarn B, Yarn ID, which is 80% acrylic, 20% polyamide, and it's an Aran weight. And this is the color Indigo. And it's this really fun heathered yarn. And I am just knitting a Tin Can Knits Gramps cardigan. They're expecting a little boy, and this hopefully will be a good size to fit him next winter. Oh, it's just fun. Here's the yarn caked up. It came in a skein, but I caked it up. And I love that heathered quality. I really love just how much acrylic yarns and budget-friendly yarns have just so improved over the years. And this one has a lovely quality to it. It's fun to knit with. And I just am really liking how it's turning out. So I finished all the little sleeve increases, just working back and forth on the body now. Now the Tin Can Knits Gramps cardigan calls for a worsted weight. This is an Aran weight. And it's feeling, I mean, you can, it's running a little big. So I'm knitting the size 0 to 6 months, but it will definitely turn out more like the 12 months size. So just because the yarn is a little heftier. This yarn is definitely, yeah, it's definitely an Aran, but it's really fun. I got 2 other colors of this to also knit for some other friends who were having babies. I had talked to Aria, my oldest, who is due in July, about, I asked her, do you want me to use acrylic yarn or, yeah, acrylic yarn for baby knits? And she was like, honestly, no. I mean, you don't need to, because she already is very used to taking care of hand knits. You know, she has sweaters and shawls and socks that I've made for her, and for her husband. I've made him socks, not other things, but and so they already are doing hand washing, or not hand washing. They usually do. I usually make things for superwash for that, with superwash, so they can machine wash it, but they lay it out to dry and they know how to take care of it and so on. And so she said she's fine with either, but I think for gifts for people who aren't used to that, then it's really nice to have these, you know, nicer acrylic yarns than what you used to be able to get. It's so nice. So anyway, that's coming along really well. Enjoying that. And then this project is really fun. So one of the things I've really been trying to do is knitting from my stash this year. And I say that now, past tense. I hadn't purchased any yarn since probably the first week of December. So it had been like 4 months till I went to Hobby Lobby and I ended up buying yarn for these baby knits. And a couple of other things. So I did buy yarn at Hobby Lobby. But I really am trying to use stash. And I, like a lot of knitters, I have quite a bit of single skeins in hand-dyed yarns. Kind of souvenir shopping, or you just see that one colorway that you really fall in love with from that dyer that you really like. You can come downstairs. My daughter has been upstairs and she's like, can I come down the stairs? Thanks, honey. Anyway, and so I had a good stash of those single skeins and I really want to kind of use them up. And I think that what's been hard for me is that I have a really major habit of picking a pattern and then picking yarn to go with the pattern. And so in my efforts to knit my stash, I'm learning I have to go the other way around. I have to pick the yarn, pull it out of my stash and say, I want to use this yarn. What am I going to make with it? And so that's what I've done with this. So I had these 2 skeins a very precious yarn that I got from Sweet Nesting Fiber several years ago. Let's see if I can hold them up without dropping anything. Right here. Let's see if I can get there. That color looks good right there. I fell in love with this color. Sweet Nesting, she's on Instagram. And as far as I can tell, she only dyes, she dyes for herself. She dyes yarn for herself and her own projects. And then if you see something that you like on her Instagram grid, you can just be like, hey, I would love that. Could you dye that for me? That's how this worked. And just the other day I was looking at her profile and it seems like it's the same setup now. So she's not always dyeing for sale, but I did get these 2 skeins. I don't know why at the time I decided I needed 2 skeins of fingering weight, or not just fingering weight, single ply. Because generally the shawls and things that I'm more attracted to are bigger than a 2 skein shawl. And I guess that probably was more in my shawl phase, less in my sweater phase. It's like you're an artist, the blue era, or I don't know, whatever. This was during his flower era, of some classic artist. I was in my shawl phase. I'm always in a shawl phase now. Anyway, but I ordered 2 skeins of this single ply and then I didn't know what to do with it. So it's been in my stash, but I love it. It's so pretty. It's so fun and vibrant and also soft. I don't know, it has such a great combination of those things, this peachy with these neon kind of speckles. It's just so pretty. So I've gone back and forth and I literally have searched over and over and over, just hundreds of patterns. And I have so many that I like, but I could never settle on any of them. And I just got this crazy idea that I was going to make something up. And I have started it. I am really enjoying it. So it's just a little baby beginning. I think the biggest thing is I want something that's going to have some interest. I don't want to knit just a sea of stockinette forever. I have a stockinette sweater. I have 2 stockinette sweaters I'm working on, the baby one and the one for me. I have socks. I just finished this, which was in garter, but again, just kind of a sea of garter. So I wanted something that has some change in it, but I'm knitting with a very speckly yarn. So a really complex lace pattern doesn't necessarily seem like the right thing. So I just decided to start designing this. And so again, I might regret this choice because now I am designing a sweater. I'm finishing up some things and I'll talk about pattern news in a little bit, but I still have some other things on the go with patterns that I'm writing, and now I'm designing this, but it's just, that's what the heart wanted. So I'm going with it. So it's just starting out with some stockinette and some garter, and it's going to have some other things later on, but I love how the yarn is working up. And single ply just has this magic of showing off color. That's something that it just can't be beat with. I mean, look at that. Every little pop, every little speckle just gets its own moment to shine somehow with that yarn. And I just, oh, it's so pretty. I'm loving it with my nail color right now. Isn't it just so fun? So this is going to be a shallow and wide triangle shape. You can kind of see already the beginnings of the shape there. And yeah, the yarn is just an absolute delight. So I'm so happy that I'm working with it. It's one where every little stitch, I'm like, ooh, there's a little pop. I mean, look at just that first stitch on the needles. Let's see if I can get it to show up. Yeah, no, got to cover my face. Anyway, it just pops that pink. And it's just so fun. So that is also on my needles. So I still have quite a bit going on. But every one of my projects is just one that I'm thoroughly enjoying right now. That's a really nice place to be. I think sometimes you kind of get to a point with some of your projects where it's kind of the newness has worn off and you're just trying to finish it. But right now, every project is kind of calling me at the same time. I have this in my Liberty patchwork bag from So Sweet Violet, which also makes me happy. So those are the projects that I have going on, and they are a lot of fun. So let's talk about some designing news. My Clover Springs sock pattern is now available. It is on, by the time that this video comes out, it will be up on Ravelry as well as on yarnberry.com. It is a one size, excuse me, itchy nose. It is a one size pattern, medium, and but it's available in fingering weight and in DK weight. The pattern is for fingering or for DK. And so it's a 64 stitch sock for fingering weight or a 48 for DK weight. I knit the DK weight in using 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held together to get that DK weight. And I really love how it's turned out. So I also have to just give a little shout out to my daughter Abby and my niece Nadia, who did the photos for this pattern, which was really fun. Clover Springs is one of my favorite spots in Mill Creek Canyon. It's a little picnic area right along the Mill Creek toward the top of the canyon. We can't get there obviously right now with the snow, but even it'll be one of the later places to open up, probably in June. We'll see once the snow melts. We'll see how long that's going to take this year. But it's just such a lovely, idyllic spot. I love to take my knitting and just drive up there and sit and take lunch and enjoy the sounds of the water and the birds and just the sights and smells up in the canyon. And so it's kind of my go-to drive to the canyon destination. And so that is why I have named this pattern Clover Springs. And it's just a relaxing and enjoyable texture knit with the spiral texture wrapping opposite directions for left and right feet. And it's all made with knit and purl stitches. So it's a really easy pattern. So anyway, I hope you will enjoy it. And I'm so happy to have it out in the world. There is a photo from Clover Springs picnic area in the pattern. So actually 2, so that kind of brings some of that local fun into the pattern. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. I also am much closer in finishing writing up the Wasatch Socks pattern. So that one will be coming out in April as well, but probably the end of April. We have some pretty major stuff coming up this month. My husband has 2 major oral surgeries planned, and we have a whole bunch of stuff going on for our youth organization, Heroic Youth. And my husband and I also have a couples retreat in April. So it is just jam-packed this month. But it's just, April is going to be wonderful, and May is going to be even better. October has always been my favorite month, but last year May became my second favorite month, and I'm hoping this year May will be the same, where it's kind of that transition. October, right before winter, you get the best of the transitions, and I think May will be the same. You get all the spring, but it's just right on the edge of summer. I'm looking forward to that. Getting April and May, just really enjoying them. Even though it's busy, it will be just delightful. Anyway, that's enough for me today. I'm going to read my book and do some more knitting today. And I look forward to speaking with you all next week. So have a great week, and have a great Easter if you are one who celebrates Easter, or if you celebrate Passover. Those are both this week. And I just really wish all the best to all of my dear friends. And I say, I'll see you all soon. Bye.